in the area of climate change with a bunch of work. One of the things I just want to point out is in 2012, she served as special advisor to the UN Secretary General's high-level group on sustainable energy for all. That is just one glimpse of many things that she's been involved in. She will tell you more about her background, but I do want to also just point out that we are sitting in Snowmass Village, part of the Roaring Fork Valley, and Aimee is actually very connected to Sun Valley, so another ski area. It happens to be in another valley called the Wood River Valley, and so there are actually some interesting parallels between where we sit and this whole tremendous environment and where Aimee is now situated. So, Aimee, you can tell us more.
Great.
Welcome, Aimee.
Thank you. Thanks. Great. Thank you. So it's great to be back at our day. I was here for the first few years and then took a few years off, and so I'm very happy to be back. Thank you, Chip and Sally, for welcoming me here. So I am going to talk about the Sun Valley Institute for Resilience, but what I wanted to start with is I believe we're in this incredible moment where we have these massive risks that we're facing, but also we have these clean energy technology and business innovations that we've been hearing about for the last few days that make it incredibly exciting. People are realizing there's a real opportunity there, and then of course there's just this global momentum that we've been hearing about as we work towards Paris. And I guess the key question is, will our community as a whole capitalize on that opportunity? And for me, increasingly, now that I live in Sun Valley, Idaho, will my local community capitalize on what I see as a great risk facing us, but also an incredible opportunity? So I wanted to start, I showed these yesterday when I was on the women's panel, but really I believe it all started with values. So I was raised by a builder father who fought within his own construction industry to do building right, to not do strip malls and sprawl, and to not do infill of wetlands. And my mother, who was an environmental educator and continues to be an environmental educator at 81 with her felt boards every week at the local library for the 3 to 5-year-olds. So I was indoctrinated early. My parents had solar on our home starting in the 70s, and Barbara Boxer used to borrow our solar energy books and called my parents the first environmentalists she ever met. So I came from a great history, but also a real imperative that I needed to get out there and protect nature. And so I went to Washington for about 15 years to work on changing the system. And I negotiated the first bilateral agreement on climate change with Costa Rica in 1994. And that's us flying back from Argentina, Brazil, and Chile, where we were also signing bilateral agreements on clean energy, and that was in 1997. But what I decided after 15 years of working on changing the system was that I really wanted a platform where I could leverage every opportunity I saw to find collaborators around the world to make a difference. And so I founded my consulting firm in 2005 and had fantastic, great clients, including the Clinton Global Initiative. That's Janie and Chevy, and Janie was on our panel yesterday. And a fantastic early client in Virgin with 400 companies around the world, and a leader who really wanted to change the world and wanted to leverage all of his reach throughout his operations, and worked with him on his big ideas, the Elders, the Carbon War Room, and more recently the B Team. I went into Google full-time and helped take them carbon neutral, helped figure out how to leverage all of Google's assets. How do they change the world? And of course, given that they're a bunch of technology guys, even though I'm a lawyer, we were going to do technology. So we showed the world the future of the electrification of transportation. This was 2007, where we showed our plug-in hybrid vehicle-to-grid initiative with our solar panels charging our cars. When there was only, before we hacked our cars, there was only one plug-in hybrid in the world, and we really saw this as a way to show the world the future that we were going to. And I love that the last few days, we've just been seeing how everyone's saying this is where we're going, and it's an incredible, exciting time. Had some fantastic collaborative platforms for action with leaders in the corporate sector. Jules was talking about the role of business, really driving change. And we had CEOs of Coca-Cola, Duke Energy, Dow Chemical at FEMSA, a year after Copenhagen, come together at the Cancun climate talks and say, this is not acceptable to fail. We have to have a win in Cancun. And it really did help support the momentum. So this is the CEOs on a panel with Charlie Rose talking about how climate change action was benefiting their bottom line and how we needed governments within the next 2 weeks that were to follow to get their act together post-Copenhagen and get a deal in Cancun, which they did. And then the collaborator here in the room is Jens Nielsen, founded the World Climate Summit, and we decided that that was a key way to help support that global momentum on climate change, was to bring business together with the negotiators. But I moved home 5 years ago, and that started to change everything. I moved home to Sun Valley to help take care of my dad and help take over our family investments. And I began to really think about, having operated within that system, that those of us who work on climate and energy and protecting nature, that we're really in an uphill battle because the system is structured to value short-term financial returns, and we've talked about this a little bit. And the Pope is helping all of us, I think, to think about our values and the system and the way that it's structured in a way that doesn't reward human well-being as a whole, which includes, of course, nature as an underpinning of that. And so I started here at Our Day 2010 talking about what do we value as a community, and at TED 2011 talked to that community about what do we value, how do we change our values. And so in 2012 started to bring that home to Sun Valley and talk about quality of place. I was still traveling around the world consulting, but I realized that my own community needed to grapple with these issues. We were working on short-term financial returns in our own community, and we weren't thinking about what did we fundamentally value as a community, and started to talk about quality of place. And we've had some great quotes about this whole issue of moving beyond GDP over the last couple of days, but Simon Kuznets, who invented the concept of GDP, made very clear that it was never supposed to be the be-all, end-all. And then I think Bobby Kennedy's speech really captured it for everyone, where he really challenged us that GNP does not count for the health of our children, the quality of their education, the joy of their play, et cetera. And it really gets us to think about what do we value as a community. And so what is quality of place? We started talking about this locally. What does it mean for us in the Wood River Valley and Sun Valley area? Well, it's material living standards, of course, but it's health, it's education, it's our personal activities, it's our political voice and our governance. And you see a lot of quality of place systems developing among businesses and governments around the world who are starting to work with what is beyond GDP, what does this mean for my company, for my community, and you may know about the social progress indicator, which is one which is ranking governments on their social progress across a much wider suite than just GDP. And it's really for us about what's there, who's there, and what's going on. And there are a lot of communities who are talking about this. What's their quality of place? Well, our quality of place was shocked in 2013. We had the second largest fire in the country. It happened the week before the Yosemite fire, which became the largest fire in the country. The Beaver Creek fire hit us, mandatory evacuations in the heart of our tourist season in August. We had an incredible team who fought this fire, but it still cost us $40 million on a one-time cost to our economy, which is about 23% of the quarter. And August in a tourist community, August is our profit month. In that month, that's when the businesses in our community finally hit profit, and then the rest of the year is gravy for them. And it hit right in the heart of their profit month, the biggest month of their season other than December. And our community started to have these questions about, well, we have climate change threatening our quality of place. We also have a very high-risk electricity system, and given that I'm an energy person and I was focused on what was happening on our energy system as well, we have reliability problems first. So we have a single transmission line. We've had 3 significant unplanned outages. We had a single outage, Christmas Eve 2009, for 24 hours. Christmas Eve, the heart of the ski season, cost us millions of dollars. So we're relying on not only an unreliable grid, but a grid that also is costing us more and more money. So our power prices went up 14% in 2013. Natural gas prices have been going up. And what does that mean for us economically? Is we're losing jobs and dollars. So every year we send about $80 million out of our community to pay for electricity and natural gas and propane. And we believe that with efficiency and local generation, that we can keep money in our bank accounts and create good jobs and keep more money in our valley. We also have huge environmental risks, as I said, with the wildfires that we've seen that really raised the awareness in our community about the climate change risk we face. But we also have a big tourism industry in the summer that loves to fly fish, and people love to go see the salmon, and our salmon are going away because of warmer rivers in this time of climate change. Also, we have a grid that's 35% coal, and none of that coal is generated in state, so it doesn't create jobs. There's no benefit to us. It's all costs. It's out of state, wheeled in, and it's also causing climate change. So we started to talk about our values around our energy system and the risks that we were facing, and so we decided we could create a resilient energy system that's more efficient with local generation and energy storage and a modernized grid. So where were opportunities? Well, we have massive sun. You might know this, but when you look at the solar maps, you can see it comes right up into the heart of Idaho. And we have 10% less than Texas and the same as North Florida. And it nearly matches our daily peak power use. Those are some kids at our Sage School with their solar hot water system, which makes their greenhouse incredibly profitable for the school because they grow food that they sell into the farmer's market and our local co-op. We've seen these slides about solar and what's been happening around the world, and so our community started asking, how do we benefit from this? How do we benefit from the solar costs coming down? How do we benefit from the momentum that's been happening around the world? How do we benefit from these global conversations? And really the question was, can our community win? Like these countries who are winning on catching the sun, can our community win? And so started to educate people in our community about the fact that Google and Walmart and Apple are all doing 100% renewable energy. Why can't we? And look at the status of renewable energy, thanks to RMI for these great slides, around the world. And we looked at our own solar potential, and we compared it to our current costs, and you can see that's our electricity costs and our natural gas costs, projections current on out. And already for commercial installations, solar thermal and solar PV is cheaper than natural gas and electricity in Sun Valley. We have 8-cent retail rates. We have some of the cheapest energy in the country. On the residential level, right now it's cheaper than electricity. Both PV is the green and thermal, solar thermal is the blue. Solar thermal is immediately cheaper than natural gas, and as you can see, increasingly they will be cheaper. We also believe we have an incredible opportunity with community solar, and there's a lot of communities in Colorado who've been leading on that. But we also said we're Sun Valley. We're not partly cloudy valley, we're Sun Valley, and this can benefit our brand. Why don't we have solar everywhere in Sun Valley? And we realized that we have a very aging population and an aging tourist demographic. And so if we want to strengthen our existing tourism, we also need to be leading on green. People want to see green. These are where our visitors come from. They expect a certain level of environmental leadership. And we have really steep competition. You guys heard about some of the leadership here in Aspen and Snowmass, so we needed to step up our game. So we decided it was time to put the sun in Sun Valley to benefit our brand. We have an energy advisory committee for the city of Ketchum that's working on that. The first thing we did was in March, we adopted 2030 goals of 100% renewable energy, 50% local generation, and carbon neutrality. And we're recruiting our partners. And the first partner we reached out to was Idaho Power, believe it or not. Our utility, we said, look, we need you. You're supplying our grid. You can provide incentives. You can work with us. We have net metering. And you can purchase renewable energy directly from the grid. So we had a working group working on how we could bring 100% renewable energy to Sun Valley. We also reached out to Sun Valley Company, which consumes 18% of our community's power. They're our ski resort. We recruited NRG. We've heard a little bit about them here and there, but they're a $10 billion energy company, and they are incredible innovators across these issues of solar and storage and EV charging and microgrids. And then our friends at RMI played a really important role. We sent a team to their electricity innovation lab in March. We brought Idaho Power together with Sun Valley Company, our largest user, with our city, and NRG to be there as the innovator and help us with our energy resilience plan. And out of that, we agreed on a strategy that looks a lot like this. So solar plus storage plus microgrid. We're also working on our transmission challenges because we still have some significant challenges facing the energy as it comes in. But over time, this is what we're working towards. But what we found is that it wasn't enough. This volunteer Ketchum Energy Advisory Committee and our little town and our volunteers, who are incredible people, weren't enough. And that also our community was facing the same challenges that so many communities are facing with climate change impacts and globalization. So we founded the Sun Valley Institute for Resilience. And resilience is how the Rockefeller Foundation, which is the leading entity really working on resilience globally, has defined it. And I kind of see it as the opposite of fragility or opposite of vulnerability. It's our ability to bounce back through shocks like the fire that hit our community. And we're focused on community resilience. And as I said, massive vulnerabilities facing us. This was the fire hitting in the heart of our tourist season. We also have a very concentrated economy. 70% of it is in that tourism and recreation sector. So when something like a fire hits us, we get hit far too hard. Climate vulnerability, concentrated imported sources of energy and food, limited connectivity, we're highly isolated. And we have a very two-tiered society. People say, oh, you're a wealthy community, you can handle this. Well, 50% of our residents are on some form of assistance. The hospitality industry does not pay particularly well. We need to diversify and build the clean energy opportunity in our community, because those are the jobs that can be better paying for the people who need them the most in our community. We also have some fantastic assets, though. We do have great human assets, retirees. I have the former head of the American Public Power Association who's on our board, who retired to Sun Valley, the former VP of Advanced Technology of Apple who lives in Sun Valley is on our board. And so we have incredible rich human resources and potentially access to more financial resources than most communities have. We're also a great size and scope and agility. So what we decided to do is to create this institute, which has at its mission to ensure the economic prosperity, environmental protection, and human well-being of our community, but also to support the communities all over the country and potentially beyond who are going through these same challenges. And how can we build our knowledge, our expertise, and our assets to make an impact? Skip through some of these. And just as an example, one of the first things we're doing is we're working with our largest nursery, who has 5 very large greenhouses that are open year-round. Unfortunately, 2 of them don't operate in the winter because they're not growing things in the winter. We said, well, how are you powering your greenhouses? And they said propane. And we said, let's do solar thermal and let's grow food in those empty greenhouses in the winter. And now we're replicating this project. And so these are our priorities. How does it benefit our education, our energy system, our water system, our food system, and our economy? This is how we're mapping every project that we structure at the Institute in our community. We're mapping against our local priorities and needs. And our partners are fantastic. We have academic institutions, Arizona State, Boise State, Stanford, Rocky Mountain Institute, NRG, foundations who are working with us and supporting us in our work. And then we have our local partners as well. That's just a little bit more on our energy strategy. I would just give you another example of the impact that the role that we play is on the state level. We have to create an operating environment that works for our community to lead on renewable energy. And we're in a battle right now at our Public Utilities Commission for the future of renewable energy in Idaho. And I flew in my secret weapon, Debbie Dooley, who co-founded the Tea Party. She's amazing. She's one of 22 people who founded the Tea Party. And I sat her down with our reporter to talk about how their wins in Georgia and how it's in Idaho's values to have independent local solar energy. And wrote an amazing, the columnist wrote an amazing piece in our Idaho Statesman, and then we wrote a guest opinion about what it meant for Idaho, hundreds if not thousands of jobs at stake if we couldn't do solar in Idaho. So our role as an institution is to help change the policy environment, help develop the projects, and help identify in our community and others what are our priorities, what are the risks we're facing, and how do we make this shift. And we had our first forum on resilience July 12th and 13th with Senator Booker kicking us off, and we hope that all of you will join us next year, including Chip and Sally, who I've also already recruited. So finally, I would just end with, I think, for all of us to ask, will our community, or your community, wherever we are, capitalize on these risks and opportunities? Thank you.